So, The Boys is unlike anything on TV right now. And I mean that in the best way possible. The Boys. So, The Boys was developed for TV by Eric Kripke, and essentially the premise for the show is what if the Justice League existed in real life, in the world of the boys, and everyone thought they were gods, but actually they were evil people who did very bad things behind the scenes. And there's this small group of people who know that, and who are trying to take them down. And also, what if the superheroes who existed in this modern day world weren't actually superheroes to begin with and were actually manufactured. And that's essentially the premise for the first season of The Boys. And I started watching this show a couple of weeks back. I wanted to binge it because I knew that Series 3 was coming out and I wanted to watch Series 3. And the first series I liked quite a lot. I thought it was really enjoyable to watch and I loved the whole concept. And then Series 2 I didn't quite like as much as Series 1, but I still really enjoyed. And now Series 3, which is just absolutely brilliant now. Series 3 of The Boys is just, it's fantastic TV, it really is. And I love this whole idea as well. What if the Justice League existed in real life and everyone thought they were heroes, everyone thought they were gods and everyone looked up to them, but actually they are evil people, much like Homelander, which is essentially, like the knockoff Superman in this show, because obviously they can't use the name of the characters because of copyright issues. So you have all these knockoff names, like A-Train is like the knockoff of the Flash, the Deep is a knockoff of Aquaman, there's a character called Maeve, I forgot what her superhero name is in the show, but the character of Maeve is a knockoff of Wonder Woman, and Starlight is a knockoff of Supergirl, and so on and so on and so on. You get that quite in this show, and the knockoff of Superman in the show is Homelander. But Homelander is such an evil character that you just love to hate. Much like Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones. Homelander in the show is a character that you love to hate, and just in the best way possible. He's one of the best written characters I've seen on TV in the past couple of years. He's such an interesting antagonist, because even so, he's the main villain of the show. Even so, you hate every time he's on screen, but you kind of love it at the same time. Even so, he's a character, like I said before, that you love to hate. He's also a villain which you see a different side to him in Series 2, especially when you find out about his family. Not to give much away there, but if you've seen the series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you see a different side to him, and I just love that about this show. I love all the characters, like Bill the Butcher, I think that's what his name is. The Butcher in the show, played brilliant by Carl Urban. Honestly, he's great in the show. He's so much fun to watch. And also at the same time, though, Hughie, played by Jack Quaid, is actually the son, by the way, of Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid. A little known fact there. But anyway, yes, Hughie is such an interesting character, in my opinion. Essentially, the main protagonist of the show, because basically, in the first 5 minutes of the entire show, we see Hughie with his girlfriend, and then his girlfriend is gruesomely killed by A-Train, by accident, which you find out about in the first series. And I just love the whole introduction. I love how basically everything kind of revolves around Hughie. That thing happens to Hughie's girlfriend, and then everything kind of evolves from there. Not to give much away there, but I love how it did that, and I love the character of Hughie as well. He's my favourite character in the show, but also there's other great characters as well, like Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kamiko, and also the superheroes in the show, or the supes as they're called in the show. You got the Deep, which is like the knockoff version of Aquaman. He's such a funny character. He's stupid, but funny to watch, and just in the best way possible. A-Train is a knockoff version of the Flash, and he's got a really interesting character arc from Series 1 to Series 3. Because in Series 1, he's a self-absorbed idiot. You hate watching him. But then by Series 3, you see a very different side to him. Like, he's not the same character, and you see him start to accept that actually in the past he was, very egotistical, and I really like the way they take that character. Also the character of Maeve, which is, the knockoff Wonder Woman in the show, so he's a really interesting character. And there's so many interesting parts of the show, which I just absolutely love. And, as the show goes on, in Series 2, you have the knockoff version of Storm from the X-Men movies in the character Stormfront, which is a very interesting character, and watching her relationship with Homelander, which is very, very fun fun to watch. It was very, very fun to watch. And also in series 3, you have Soldier Boy, which is a knockoff version of Captain America. And I love that character. I really do. And I will get onto him again a bit later. And I love the way Jensen Ackles plays him as well. But yes, I love all the characters in the show. But I also love the writing. Like, not only are the characters interesting because they're done in a realistic light. Like, in the end, if superheroes existed in the modern day world, we wouldn't really look up to them, to be honest. I mean, some of us might, but then there'd be other group of people who wouldn't. And I just love that whole modern day take, and that whole realistic take on the superheroes in the world of The Boys. But at the same time, though, I also love the writing. Like, I think it was Series 1, Episode 4, or might have been Series 1, Episode 5, we find out, and not to get too away here in case you haven't seen the show yet, but when you find out that the superheroes were actually kind of, you know, they weren't born with their superhero powers. I love when you find out all this about Compound V, and again, if you've seen the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but Compound V was a twist where I went, oh, now you've got me. You've got me now. And I absolutely love the twist with Compound V in the show. And that's when I started to really get into it. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't love the show quite as much as some other people do. I think it's great TV. I think it's really fun to watch. I just don't love it. But that was the point I was like, oh, you've got me now. This is compelling. This is interesting. Because when the superheroes in the show, and again, not to go into detail if you haven't seen the show, when the supes in the show find out that they weren't born with their superhero powers, I was like, ooh, this is fun. And I think it's so well written. I think it's really well done. I think it's massively written, actually. One thing I almost got to mention there was how it balances about 10 to 15 storylines in each of its series. Like in the first series, you got about 5 main storylines going on, and they got loads of other side storylines as well. And then, you know, in series 2, you got even more storylines. There's Stormfront thrown in there, and more of a character with her, like more of a story going on with her. And in series 3, you got like about 15 storylines going on in the show, each as important as one another, and it massively balances all these storylines in these hour episodes. These episodes, you know, they're not more than an hour long. I mean, I think maybe the finale of series 2 was maybe an hour 10 minutes, but still, it wasn't that long. But they massively balance all these storylines, and it's so good to watch. It really is. And I think series 1 was absolutely fantastic. I love how it was I love the whole concept, and I thought it was really enjoyable to watch. And I'd probably give series 1 like an 8.5 out of 10. Series 2, like I said before, I didn't quite like as much as series 1, but I still thought it was great TV. And I love the twists and the turns, and finding out more about Homelander and his familial situation, and just seeing different sides of all these characters. But I didn't quite love as much as series 1, but I did still really enjoy it. So I'd say that series 2 of The Boys was about an 8.3 out of 10 for me. But as for series 3, I thought series 3 was fantastic. I really did. Did I love it? You know what? I did love series 3 of The Boys. I really did, actually. Because I thought series 3 was better than series 1 and 2. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed series 1 and 2 quite a lot. They got me into the show. But series 3, you know, I'm filming this review the same day I finished finale. I finished it a couple hours ago now. And I finished that finale and went, oh, that's brilliant. Like, they set it up for series 4 so fantastically. And I just love the way things were developed. I loved the twists. I loved, you know, learning more about the superheroes as well, learning more about Homelander, learning more about Black Noir, which is essentially like the knockoff version of Batman in this show, which one thing I really mentioned. But the thing is with Black Noir, I've always enjoyed that character. It's been a bit of like a comical background character in the previous 2 series of this show. But in this series, you learn a lot more about him, and I love how they did that as well. I love how it plays with form, and I love how you get a bit of animation in the show, which shouldn't work, but it does. In this series of The Boys, you get a bit of animation thrown in there, and it shouldn't work whatsoever. It really shouldn't. I was watching thinking, why is this working? But it does, and it's such an interesting way. And the storytelling is fantastic, and it's great TV, this new series. It really is. I finished series 3 of The Boys and went, wow, that was brilliant. Now, spoilers here for series 3 of The Boys. If you haven't watched it, because we'll be going into some big spoilers about why I loved it. So, spoiler here. One of the reasons I loved this series was because of Soldier Boy. Like we talked about before, Soldier Boy is like the knockoff Captain America, and I think he's brilliantly played by Jensen Ackles. I think all the performances, by the way, in all the series of The Boys are absolutely fantastic. Like, I do think that Anthony Starr as Homelander is terrific in this series, though, but I'll get onto that a bit later in this video. But as for Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, he's great, and I love that character because I love how when he wakes up and he's worn about the streets of America once again, and he sees, he sees a gay couple, he's a bit like, what the hell's that? And that was so realistic. I love that. Like, I just love that take. Just a little moment. It's like nuanced storytelling. It's like a little moment in, I think it was like episode 3 or episode 4 of series 3 of The Boys. I love that moment because it was just, I was like, yes! Because this is what Captain America should have been like. He wakes up at the end of the first Captain America movie. This is what the Winter Soldier should have been like in Captain America the Winter Soldier. This is like the realistic version of these characters we've seen in the past movie blockbusters. But because, those blockbusters are 12s and PGs, they can't do that sort of content, and also people will be easily offended. In this show, they don't shy away from doing things like that. And I just love that little moment. It's like, yes, I instantly bought into that character. And I just thought the way they wrote Soldier Boy, and also the fact that they kept him alive at the end of the series. Like, again, spoiler there. I already gave my spoiler warning, but the fact that they kind of kept him alive, I love that. Like, I don't know if he'll be in the next series, but he's still about, and I love that. Because one of my problems with Stranger Things is that I love Stranger Things. I actually adored Stranger Things 4. I thought it was fantastic TV. But my problem with Stranger Things is you keep introducing lovable characters and great characters, but then they kill them off in the same series. In series 1 it was Barb, in series 2 it was Bob, Sean Astin's character, in series 3 it was Alexei, and in series 4 it was Eddie. Spoiler for Stranger Things there, in case you hadn't seen the latest series. But still, Stranger Things has a habit of killing off great characters and introducing them in the same series, though. And The Boys didn't do that. Soldier Boy is a character I liked more as the series went on, and they didn't kill him off. I was like, yes. That would be like, I don't know if he'd be back for series 4. I don't have a clue. I love that he stayed alive at the end of the series, though. And also, I love the twist when you find out that Soldier Boy is actually, Homelander's biological dad. I thought that was fantastic, because that was such a predictable twist on the surface. But because the way the show was written, you didn't see that coming. And then when you got to that twist at the end of, episode 7 of series 3 of The Boys, I was like, didn't see that coming, but yeah, I can totally see that now. That's so brilliant. But I also love how they dealt with that in the last episode of the series as well, and seeing the confrontation between Homelander, Soldier Boy, and Homelander's son. I thought that was so good, and I just thought that final episode went out with a bang. Honestly, the last episode of this series of The Boys stuck the landing in the most boys way possible, if you will. There was a great action sequence, the superhero powers were done well. I loved how they finished off all the characters for this series. They left the character routes open, like we now know that Carl Urban's character, Butcher, he's going to die soon. We now know that. But at the same time, though, they closed off his character arc for this series. And also, oh God, I love the last episode. I was watching it going, oh, and that's how I kind of feel with The Boys as a whole. I watch this series and I just keep doing that. I go, oh, that's cool, that's great. I'm really enjoying this. Like, I don't think it's quite as good as some people do, but I really enjoy it, and I enjoy it because of its realistic take. I love this whole compound V story, and again, this isn't really series 3, but it kind of is at the same time. I just love the verisimilitude, and by the way, if you don't know what the word is, look it up, but I just love the verisimilitude of this show, because that's the thing that compels me. I'm not the biggest fan of superhero stuff in general, whether it's the films or the TV shows. It's just not really for me, unless it's subversive, like the James Gunn sort of stuff. Like, this show has such a James Gunn sensibility, and, I love that about it. I love James Gunn super movies, whether it's the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, whether it's a Suicide Squad, which I really enjoyed, or whether it's some of his early work, like Super as well, which I watched recently, which I enjoyed, but was very James Gunn, so it took a bit of time to get my head around it, but I enjoyed Super, which he directed all the way back in, like, 2010. I enjoyed that movie, but, at the same time, you can clearly tell this show takes a lot of, the James Gunn comic movies, whether it's the Suicide Squad, Super, and even Guardians of the Galaxy to a certain degree. It's got that James Gunn sensibility in there, but in a great way. Like, I do know The Boys is based on some comic books, like the first 2 series were anyway, and take a guess if you think I've read the comic books, because I haven't. No, I have not read the comic books that this show is based on, but for me, when I watch it, I go, oh, it's kind of like James Gunn-esque, and that's kind of why I enjoy it. I don't love some of James Gunn's earlier work, like Super, and I don't love the Suicide Squad, but you can kind of see some of that, this sort of trademark, whether it's the gore, whether it's the sex references, whether it's explicit sex references and that, and the jokes about quite, sensitive subject matter in James Gunn's movies in this show as well. There's a James Gunn sensibility which I really, really like about it. And there are parts of the show which I'm not the biggest on, like the gore. Sometimes it's just a bit too gory for me. I'm not as big a fan of gore in like TV shows and blood and that sort of stuff. But I kind of like that it's done in a realistic way in this show. Like in the end, if a person's head was beaten to death by a shield, like it is by Soldier Boy, and I think it's like episode 5 of series 3, the person's head who was just beaten by the shield would be in pieces, like it is in The Boys. But at the same time, just sometimes the gore is a bit too much for me. Same with the sexual content in the show. Like Herogasm, I liked quite a lot. I liked that episode because it didn't just focus on the Herogasm aspect. It wasn't just an episode like, look, we're having boobs on the show, we're having a giant dick on the show. It wasn't that sort of content because there's actually a story going on, and all the Herogasm stuff was going on in the background, and I really liked that. And so I don't mind the explicit content. I don't mind whether it's the gore or the sexual stuff. I don't mind that so much, but that's part of the show which I'm just not the biggest on. And also, if I can with criticisms, I liked what they did with Starlight and Hughie's relationship in this series of The Boys. I didn't love it though, because it kind of felt like it was in the same thing that they did with Hughie and Starlight's relationship in series 1 and 2. Like, Hughie and Starlight, which are both great characters, I really like, and I really like the relationship. It's a heart of the show. But, the thing is, though, we've seen their relationship, go through turmoil in the first series. When Starlight finds out that Hughie has been working against the superheroes in the world of The Boys, and in series 2, there's a bit of turmoil again in that relationship. And in series 3, there's more of that turmoil, and I just kind of wish they did something else with that relationship. I don't know, just spice it up a bit. Like, it felt very much the same, that relationship, and I still liked the way they did that. But at the same time, though, in series 4, I hope they do something different with the Hughie and Starlight relationship. That's all I'm saying. Maybe she gets pregnant. Maybe we'll see what it's like when, a soup gets pregnant with a non-soup. I think that could be quite interesting. I don't know, but just do something different with that relationship in the 4th series, please. That's like my only criticism. That's like my only two criticisms. I'm not too big on the gore, and I'm not too big on the sexual content. I'm not too big on what they do with Hughie and Starlight's relationship in this series. And also, I won over big criticism as well, which is that sometimes the action in the series feels a bit generic. It just feels kind of like generic superhero action, but only on a budget sometimes. But in the end, when I'm watching the show, those things don't really bother me. Those criticisms that I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, to be honest, because when I'm watching the show, I'm really enjoying it. Even the action, which, does feel generic to a certain degree, I enjoy watching it because there's so much, story going on with the action. Like, in the Herogasm episode, we see the fight between Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Homelander. It's a great fight sequence, and also Hughie's in that fight sequence as well. It's a great fight sequence because there's so much story going on there. You've seen all the build up to that fight, and then when you're watching the fight for the first time, it's really fun to watch, and it's quite emotional to watch because you understand all this fight's been leading up to that moment. Same with the big fight in the final episode of series for The Boys. There's been so much build up to that fight that even so, the action is shot in a kind of generic way, in my opinion. I was still entertained by it because of the story and all the emotion there. And then watching the fight between Homelander and Maeve, you've seen that relationship, gone from okay in the first series to just those two hating each other by the 3rd series. And then watching that fight was actually quite riveting, in my opinion. I was like, wow. I didn't expect to be this enthralled by a fight sequence in a Amazon Prime TV show, but here I am, and it's just things like that which really made me like the show. Just the way that the action on the surface is a bit generic, but then when you have all this story that's going underneath it, it makes it that much better to watch. And then watching like Homelander's son start to use his powers as well against Butcher. Again, on the surface, if you just put that scene to me, like without seeing the relation between, Butcher and Homelander's son, I'd be kind of like, that's okay. But because we've seen, the relation between Butcher and Homelander's son before, and because we've seen how that relationship is kind of derailed, when you get to that moment in the last episode, you're kind of like, wow. That's really quite emotional. I didn't expect Homelander's son to do that, but that's where they're taking the character. And it's things like that, you get what I'm saying. Just, the action is so well done because there's so much emotion going into the action of the series. And that's what I like about it. It's so well written. It massively balances all these different characters, and I really like that about it. And I like seeing how, you know, Frenchie and Kamiko's character arcs have changed from series 1 to series 3. I love that relation with the show, and I also like the little, you know, musical sequence in, like, what was it, episode 3 of the series. I really enjoyed that. And also I love the fact that, you know, everyone's seeing the real Homelander now, and everyone's loving it. Like, all the, you know, all the normal people in the world of the boys who were supporting Homelander has seen the real Homelander now, and they all loving it. I love that about it. Like, I think it's episode 2 of this series, or series 3, you see Homelander just go on a complete rant when it's meant to be like his birthday celebration on TV, and yet everyone still supports him. I just love things like that, and I think it's great. I really do. Yeah. I think that it really surprised me, because I was hesitant to watch the show, and like everyone in my house was watching it and saying, "Oh, you should watch it, it's really good TV." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's superheroes, and I'm not really big on superhero stuff unless it's subversive." But the thing is, though, this show is subversive. You know, even though it still has, you know, you knock off Superman, you knock off Wonder Woman, you knock off Supergirl, you knock off Flash, and so on and so on and so on. Even though it still has that sort of stuff, it's done in such a way which is subversive, and it isn't just you knock off Superman. There's so much more to Homelander than that. That's like the one sentence I'd say if I was describing the character to someone who hadn't seen the show. When you learn more about the Homelander character, there's so much there which is so interesting, which I think is great. I think it's a really interesting take on this whole idea that what if superheroes existed in this modern day world, in the real life world. I think that's a really interesting take, and I can't wait to see where the story goes in series 4. I love the fact, I love the end of the series as well. I love when you play like Goodbye a Little Bit Roll by Elton John, and you see all the characters, you know, you see May finally getting away. I just love that. And I also love seeing how it wraps up all the other different character moments, like when you see the Deep's wife has now split with him and now bringing out her own book, and now the Deep is just, you know, he's being the Deep all over again, and I love how it wrapped up A-Train storyline in the episode as well. You now see that he was paralysed, and it's all because of him, essentially. You know, not directly, but indirectly, it's all because of him, and I just love things like that, and yeah, Series 3 was great in my opinion. I really, really liked it. I loved it, in fact. I thought it was fantastic TV. It's one of the best shows I've seen in the past couple of years, and I think it went out of a bang. I really did, and I love all the characters. I love where they take on the characters. I love how this whole thing with, you know, Temp V as well, which one thing I almost got to mention. I love how this whole thing with, you know, Temp V, and how, you know, Butcher for the first few seasons of The Boys was trying to take down Homelander, but now in this series he kind of becomes Homelander, a version of Homelander anyway. And I love how that's all done, and I think it's great. I think it's great TV, and yeah. I loved it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that The Boys Series 3, I'm going to say that it's about a 9 out of 10. Honestly, I really enjoyed this show as a whole. I really do, and if you haven't seen it yet, and yet you watched my full review and you've heard me talk about the spoilers, but still, if you haven't seen the show yet, I highly recommend it. It's great TV. I wouldn't say it's the best TV show I've seen in the past couple of years, but it's definitely up there. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I think the heart of the show is done well, you know, the relationship between Starlight and Hughie. I hope next year we get something different on that, but I still think it's done well. I think all the characters went well. Hughie is still my favourite character. I think Jack Quaid plays him so well, but I love all the other characters as well. I like Mother's Milk, I love French, I love Kamiko, I love Butcher, I love Homelander, I love the Deep. I think he's such a stupid character, and I find him so funny to watch. And also, that's another thing I haven't mentioned yet, by the way. I think it's a great show, and I think it's so funny to watch. I think that the comedy actually works really, really well, but also I love the character of A-Train. I love the way they've taken that character. I didn't love A-Train in Series 1, but I love A-Train by the end of Series 3. I love how they've taken that character in a very different direction, which I didn't expect. And, you know, I love all these other characters as well, all the side characters, like the one that's now running for mayor. I forgot her name. It's the one who, like, blows up all the heads. You know who I'm talking about if you see the show. And I love her. And yeah, on the surface, you know, this doesn't sound like a show which would really appeal to me. But because of the way it's written, and because of the characters, which I actually find generally interesting, and because of the verisimilitude of this show, you know, I sit there and I'm entertained by it every single time I watch the show. I really am. And yes, some episodes are better than others. That happens with any TV show. Some episodes will always be better than others. But it's so good to watch overall. It really is, and I think all the performances are great. I think the soundtrack is also great as well. I love how Hughie, which again, who's essentially the main character of the show, I love how he's a bit of a Billy Joel fan as well, so you get quite a bit of Billy Joel music in the show. And by the way, I quite like Billy Joel as an artist, but I just think the soundtrack is well done, and I also think that I also like the fact that you get like little cameo appearances as well from Simon Pegg, who plays Hughie's dad. You know, he was in series 1, he was like 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes of series 1, and we haven't really seen him again since series 1, and then you had a bit of a cameo in the first episode of series 3, and I think that the show keeps getting better and better, which is one thing I almost forgot to mention. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention that, but I'm mentioning it now. I think the show keeps getting better and better as the series goes on, and I think the Soldier Boy is an interesting character. I think the character got better as the series went on, as series 3 went on, and I just love the way they take this show. It's so unpredictable, but at the same time, though, it kind of is predictable. You know, on the surface, you should have seen that Soldier Boy was Homelander's dad. You should have seen that on the surface. We should have all seen that, but we didn't, because of the way the show was written, because of the storytelling, because of the way the show was taken. I think it's great. I really do. And the thing I love about it the most is the realism, the verisimilitude. I love that so much about the show because, yeah, it really made me believe in everything, and I love the whole thing with Compound V. I love how that's still developing storyline. I also have seen, you know, people like Giancarlo Esposito on the show. He plays kind of like another villain, which is in so many shows right now. But I always think it's great in this series. You know, he plays, what was the character he played? He played Edgar. That was it. He played Edgar, and he's definitely coming back, by the way. You know, because he kind of need him a vote. And I think the way the show uses this idea of the boys, the way the show uses this premise, is just done so brilliantly. And that brilliant way they've written the show from series 1 carries over into series 3, and just in the best way. I've been rambling on way too much about it, but you get the point. I really like the show as a whole, and I loved series 3. I think it was absolutely fantastic. I think the series keeps getting better and better, and I can't wait to see what they take in next. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that The Boys Series 3 was disgustingly great TV, and I'm also going to say that it's a 9 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of The Boys? Please you comment down below and know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please click down below and like subscribe on this video. I look forward to many more, both film and TVs, come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon. Bye for now. Bye.